and Victory today. It's
Yeah,
a pleasure
absolutely.
to have you. Could we just start off by telling us a little bit about what you do at SMU?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you, Dr. West, Jack. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all. I'm sorry that I was not able to come in person, but hopefully this will be sufficient for us both. But yes, Sean Witten. What I do at SMU is serve in a role that works with our international student communities, in addition to those who are coming from an inclusive excellence community. So by that, I mean students who may be coming from a more rural background, students who are the first generation type of student to come or first in their family to attend university or attend college. Um, and those who may be coming from a lower to middle socioeconomic status. And so those are the student bodies I work with in totality when it comes for SMU itself.
Okay, so not only you do international outside use, and then
Yes.
a smaller demographic of people who maybe haven't attended college before.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's interesting because I think there's a lot of people who are super successful in high school,
Yes.
and their just families just haven't been able to kind of like provide or haven't been going, like it's not the trend for their family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that in a way being from that situation is maybe a benefit to attending college in the US? Like it's a little bit of diversification of your kind of resume.
What do you mean? Can you clarify that question for me?
Well, for example, like if I look at a lot of like people applications for like Ivy League schools, and
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't, and a lot of the theme is for that it's first generation. It'll be a first generation Latino or first generation
Mm-hmm.
African American or something like that. Do you think that applies to SMU as well? Like, is that kind of the trend for SMU?
In terms of our student body that is first generation students.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes and no. So the thing about the rural piece is that many of our students who live in the countryside or live on farms or in rural areas outside of a large city or town, those are first generation applicants as well, and that is irregardless. That's not a word. Regardless of uh, their racial or ethnic background. We serve all of the students who may be coming from that first generation spectrum. So for the students who may have not had parents or grandparents attend college, that's something that we or the populations that or communities that we serve at SMU, as it relates to the review that comes with racial or ethnic backgrounds. In the States, we've had a federal policy, affirmative action, be struck down. And so that included seeing and or engaging with race and ethnicity during the admissions process or application process. And that's not something that we are able to do any further. And so we don't know that information. We don't have that data at the application stage. Um, I know this is a very long-winded way of answering your question on first generation, but when it comes into that first generation piece, it's simply a matter of, did your parents and or anyone in your family attend university or college before you? And if that's not the case, you'll qualify as a first generation student.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about a little bit about the culture at SMU, just like the student community?
Yeah, our students come from a wealth of places. So to your point on diversity, around 51%, 54%, I'm sorry, 54% of our students come from out of the state of Texas. So from multiple states throughout our nation, we have student representation. In addition, that still means a good portion still come from the state of Texas, but they're from every county and area throughout the state. And we have around 4 to 8% of our students who are coming internationally. So we find ourselves very much and pride ourselves on this idea that we are a global gateway. And so the culture on campus is very much built around the ideas that our students are individuals who are entrepreneurial. They are students who are, and by entrepreneurial, I mean bold. And so the campus feels very initiative driven in that way. Our culture also is welcoming and engaging with creativity and innovation. And that's from faculty, staff to students alike. And then finally, a lot of curiosity. With that much diversity across our campus, being a private nationally recognized institution, a lot of it is built around the ideas that we will be curious about people who may not look like us, may not have shared experiences, but may have them as well in the same token. And so that curiosity extends beyond just the classroom, but there's a level of community that comes from that curiosity. And so on campus, you'll see a lot of the fraternities and sororities, student organizations and clubs, athletics, working in a very dynamic and or harmonized way to get to know each other and really celebrate each other in different ways. So it's a culture that, if I'm whittling it down, that's bold, curative, and curious.
Yeah, and it's interesting with like the sports and the sororities. I feel like over here, from my experience coming from the U.S. and then spending time over here,
yeah,
the kids over here are just fascinated by American football.
Yes,
It's like a huge part of it for them when looking at schools.
absolutely.
And that's what's cool about SMU is that they have the international culture as well as, they can all, kind of all mix in.
Yeah.
Do you think, what would the adjustment be like for someone to come from the UK or anywhere? Would that be a relatively easy adjustment?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it's a welcoming community on campus and in the city of Dallas. Almost 1 out of 4 residents of the city of Dallas are from an international background. And so there's certainly communities and spots and places that our students can engage within the city of Dallas, in addition to being on campus. So it's not that you have to be planted in one space. You have fantastic neighborhoods around us that would welcome students from the UK and or even feel familial in that way. I think the no piece of that is there's certainly still some culture shock. When you come to the state of Texas and you come to the city of Dallas, as well as our campus, it's hot. So the weather's going to be quite different in that way, and so there may be a shift in how things are engaged. I hadn't looked at the weather today, for example, but it's probably close to 70. Whereas, now it's what, 50, 60 degrees?
Like 52.
So that's going to be a change
Right.
in that way. I think for the other pieces of this is thinking about it from the lens of, maybe the daily tenor. Dallas is a very innovative and job marketed space. And so there's a quickened pace, not that, a London or the UK or any other country doesn't have that, but the feel that you have will be and or feel as though it's maybe a little faster in that space. And then ultimately, and I'm a rule of threes guy, so I'll always do 3 pieces here. And so the final one I'd say in terms of the shock culture shock that may come into place is just the daily mannerisms. You may find that breakfast is a specific way, and an English breakfast. Mushrooms will not be a part of your slam breakfast at Denny's in that regard. And so, portions may be larger and the freshman 15 of gaining in terms of your meals will look a lot different as well. And so there are certainly going to be some of those cultural shocks that come into play.
Yeah, well, I feel like just going to Texas, even if you live in the U.S., is a culture shock in itself.
Yes.
So, I couldn't imagine coming here.
Absolutely.
What would be just the benefit? So I've kind of experienced the benefit to going to school internationally. What would be the benefit for anyone who maybe doesn't go to school internationally now to, do that?
To attend in the States?
Yeah, to attend or just internationally anywhere. What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think the benefits come in terms of the independence that you'll gain and or garner. There's a level of initiative that any student would need to take as they go to college broadly, but going to college without any safety net to, oh, hey, yes, I'll just go home on the weekend, kind of a feeling, is going to require some levels of independence and risk. And by risk, I mean an intelligent risk itself. And I don't reference risk in what we might think of as a negative connotation, but this curiosity piece, and a curiosity in action. So any student that goes overseas, abroad, to the States, as an international student, has to have a level of independence. And that is going to only be strengthened as you go about your time and the levels of initiative from it, right? There's many things, and many times you'll be asking questions and feel incomplete because you don't have that backhand knowledge within those spaces. The other things that come within that are really building, or come from it, I should say, building community. And you're building it in a global sense. We certainly have experiences, as you said, from the States, that are going to be a lot different than what is in the UK, to what is in India, to what is in China, and across the world, but there are still shared living experiences. Breaking up with a significant other, playing a sport and losing. There are shared experiences in that way that you'll be able to build bonds and community in fantastic experiences together. So students who are going overseas, building community doesn't have to be force-fed in oh yes, we only have this class together and that's all I know about you. But it is an opportunity to continue to grow in a way that showcases your welcome and celebration of the diversity of your experiences. And I think that is, for anyone studying internationally, offers a very unique network. And so that's something that SMU does really well, is building a network. And so being at an institution and colleges as you study abroad, you're building networks of people wherever you go. And those people may help you with internships as you go along, and potentially your future job, clinical experiences, and or friends who may be standing up in your wedding in the future. So there's definitely a wealth of opportunities that come within that. And then finally, just a growth mindset. You have to be willing to go outside of your box as an international student. You're already doing that by selecting to go internationally. But that growth mindset continues into a lifelong learning aspect. And so that's the important part, is you aren't looking at, oh, I didn't catch this turn of phrase well in English because it's completely different than home. Okay, great. But now you know how to define it appropriately. Or I didn't understand this concept because we didn't learn it as a part of our history in the UK versus the States, and those types of things. So it's definitely the mindset that you are going to fail, but at the same time, understanding that failure is a lesson and not a stop within itself.
Yeah.
Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit about the religious aspect of the school? Because that is a big
Uh,
part of it, right?
yeah, so we are Southern Methodist University in the totality of our name. And what we have built and or have been built on is the foundations of the Methodist traditions. And that still resonates and resides throughout campus. But we operate much more now as a non-sectarian institution. And so what has been informed and or engaged with me when I've started here at SMU is that the M in our name is as uppercase or as lowercase as you'd like it to be. We certainly do not force our level of Christian values and our ideals on any student, but we can also foster those students that want to continue to grow in that space. So we have many religions that are represented throughout campus. Our most prominent being Christian, but then also Protestant, Muslim, Jewish. We have a Hillel on campus, a Muslim Student Association, a Catholic center on campus in the same token. And so we're very welcoming across the expanse of faiths, and to those who may not have found their faith yet and or simply have a faith in humanity that doesn't necessarily have to fit within a religion. So spirituality. And so our religious studies and pieces that come into that are a part of the course requirements for undergraduate students. It is certainly something that can be a part of your experience on campus if you are looking for that.
Right. So it kind of just gives the option, however, I'm not sure, however little you want.
Absolutely.
What are the steps people should take when wanting to apply? Like, what things can they do to kind of boost their application, but specifically for SMU? Like, what are you really looking for?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. We're not an institution. SMU is not a place that has minimum scores. We're not looking to just check boxes and you're in or out. What we do is a holistic admissions process. Now, holistic is a very fantastically used buzzword quite often. And it'll have definitions across different universities. But for us at SMU, what we're looking for is a curiosity in action. And so the types of students that come through our application and admissions process are individuals who fit the culture that I talked about previously. And so these are students who are bold, creative, and curious. And to give you an example of what that means, it's not just, oh, hey, yes, I'm bold. I had the confidence to lead X thing, or I started my own business. Certainly, that is incredible talent and leadership. And those are things that we will take into account. But we also mean, in terms of being bold, are you an individual who's a leader in your family? You know, maybe you have to babysit for your younger siblings, or you have to work at the family business. That too is being bold, because you may not have the choice to not do those things.
Right.
In that same token, the creative and innovative piece are those students who are utilizing their academic knowledge in differing ways, right? And so this may be a matter of the computer science student who uses programming languages to help out their local nursing home, or things like that. Or it could be as simple as writing and or building cards to send out to cancer patients at local hospitals. It can assuredly mean many things, but creative problem solving is essentially what the types of students we have there. And then curious is, again, that network. So curious about people and curious about subjects. And so academically, it's not just, oh, yes, I am a business student and all I've ever done in my life is business. It is that you are utilizing the curiosity of, oh, business has this subset called marketing. Let me look into that and what do I do with that, and or how do I perform in academically to that course, or utilizing the curiosity to note, oh, there's this offhand shoot, let's say, of engineering where I might be able to engage in a management science. And so it's interdisciplinary with business and engineering. And so you're taking on like project management concepts just as much as you're looking at accounting. And so it's things like that that we mean and are look for within our process. So we're looking for individuals who fit those three buckets, but overarchingly could also mean some level of talent, initiative, leadership, and a genuine excitement for the experiences they're looking for in college.
Got it. Are there opportunities for, let's say, if you play rugby or cricket over here,
Yeah.
would you be able to come do that at SMU as a, like, even
As an
just
athlete?
as a student athlete? Would you be able to participate?
Yeah. So yes and no. So some of them may be Division I athletic programs, thinking of a tennis or a golf. But a rugby or a cricket would be more of a club sport. So you're still a student athlete and you're competing within the state of Texas and regionally to the southwest, neighboring states, more often than not. But you would not have and you'll have a travel schedule. You'll do many of the things as a Division I athlete, but there wouldn't be any scholarship attachment. It may not be recognized by the NCAA just yet. And I specifically think of rugby in this field. So if you're a rugby player, then that is something in which you would join the club rugby team on campus.
Right. Yeah. What are the three most important things someone should just know about SMU to take away?
Yeah, that's a great question. The three most important things to consider about SMU. Pony up is not just a greeting and or hand sign, our pony up symbol. It is definitely a part of our spirit and tradition. And so when you become a Mustang, SMU, you become a part of a much larger network of individuals who are thinking big and doing good. And so within that, I harken back to the things we've talked about, but you're thinking about and are engaging in community in a way that is built to set up a network that will build your net worth for the future. And so a lot of that is collaboration and community, but it's also the content that you build from that experience. Secondly, the other piece is, we are a nationally recognized institution with remarkable programs in academics and service, I should say, in the same token. We serve many organizations and communities within Dallas, but also we do it nationally and globally in a lot of the work that we have going on with our student body. But what I mean by that is, our students have fantastic career outcomes. And so if you're a business student, 94% of them have a job even before they graduate from SMU. If you are a student coming from our Dedman College of Humanities and Sciences, it's a mouthful, then you have this opportunity where you can be a part of a top 1% liberal arts college. And so when I mean nationally recognized, that's the type of thing I mean. We are a top 20% institution by ranking. And so there's a level of excellence in what we do and how we embody things. And finally, the last thing I'd have folks know about SMU is, we are a place that is built on its people and with its people. And so when I reference that, I mean, we are both of Dallas and from Dallas. And so a lot of the things that you do is going to be tied to a city that is one of the, again, world's most innovative cities, one that's very well known for producing jobs, and one that's going to, foster and develop your growth because of the experiences you have around not only the city, but not only the campus, but within the city itself. So I think there's unique opportunity when you come to SMU.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Or
no, I was just gonna say pony up.
Go Mustangs.
yes, thanks.
Absolutely, go Mustangs. Yes. Well, thank you very much, Jack. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you so much for spending time.
Yeah, no doubt.